Wonderful. We have a quorum.
3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
I'm Micah Reese, and I'm the Dive Safety Officer here at the Oregon Zoo. I'm Micah Reese, and I'm the Dive Safety Officer here at the Oregon Zoo, and safety is a big part of my job. Some of the things we consider here is diver safety. I'm out here at the Oregon Zoo, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chamber is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside the entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, I'll call our meeting to order for November 13, 2025. Georgia, can you call roll for attendance?
Yes, absolutely. Counselor Nolan?
Hello, here.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Present.
Counselor Wong?
Present.
Counselor Gonzalez will be here shortly. Council President Peterson is excused. Deputy Council President Simpson is excused. And Presiding Officer, Counselor Lewis.
Present, thank you. So counselors, we are switching up the order on the agenda today from what was published. So bear with us. We're gonna do what we can. After public communication and the consent agenda, we will begin with the COO and counselor communication. Then we're going to hear from Oregon Zoo before going to the 2040 planning and development grants. So I will now open public communication for non-agenda items. Georgia, please describe for our participants how we use our procedures for public communication.
If you are testifying in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card from the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it's your turn to testify, I'll call your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist. You can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes and the timer begins when you begin speaking. If you are testifying in person, their timer is located at the testimony table on the wall and on the digital screen. Please state the name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Counselor Lewis, I'm not seeing anyone in the audience or on Zoom, and I've not received any requests in advance.
Okay. In that case, I will close testimony for today's public communication. I'll move us along to our consent agenda. We have 2 items on today's consent agenda. 3.1 is consideration of the October 9, 2025 meeting minutes, and 3.2 is consideration of the October 14, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there a motion for consent agenda?
Nolan moves adoption.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Moved by Counselor Nolan, second by Counselor Wong. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Unanimous support of our 2 meeting minute approvals. I will hand it over to our COO, Marisa Madrigal, for our updates.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis. Good morning, councilors. I want to share some news about an exciting partnership within Metro and with regional partners today. If you've ever been to a soccer game or concert at Providence Park, you probably know that riding TriMet is the easiest way to get there, and TriMet makes it easy for people to choose transit for their trip with their Ticket to Ride program, which turns every Timbers, Thorns, and concert ticket into proof of fare on transit. The program has been extremely successful at delivering thousands of soccer fans and concert goers to Providence Park via TriMet buses, Max, Lyft, and Portland Streetcar every year. and aligns perfectly with Metro's climate and sustainability goals. So I am thrilled to share that Metro is partnering with TriMet to bring the Ticket to Ride program to Zoo Lights and Brew Lights this year. This means that every Zoo Lights or Brew Lights ticket is also a ticket on TriMet. So no more worrying about whether or not there will be parking left. You can just hop on the Max. This program will be implemented by the zoo with funding from Metro's Planning, Development, and Research Department through our Regional Travel Options Program, as well as funding from Explore Washington Park. Thank you to the zoo, Planning, Development, and Research, TriMet, and Explore Washington Park for working together to develop, fund, and deliver this program. And just a reminder that a great opportunity to get out to the zoo is coming up Monday. Employee Zoo Lights is Monday, November 17th from 4:30 to 7. The zoo train and carousel are free during the event, and you can use your employee discount on the gift shop and many food and beverage purchases. So this is a great opportunity to bring your family and enjoy the lights. Metro employees can reserve up to 10 complimentary tickets for themselves, family, and friends. But you do need to have reserved time tickets for yourself, so make sure to reserve your tickets in advance. And you can find more information and the link to reserve tickets in the employee news section on MetroNet. So thank you, Zoo, for letting me give that fun update.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Any questions or follow-up? Okay, wonderful. Counselors, I will ask for our council communication updates now. Counselor Rosenthal.
Yeah, just a quick update. On last Friday, before the holiday, we had Councilor Simpson and I attended a site visit to Mount Hood Community College where Kelly Creek, there's a dam and there's plans to remove the dam. We own a lot of property. Metro has a lot of property just below. It's a high priority salmon area. We've made a lot of acquisitions in the area. It was a very interesting visit, and there's a lot of plans to remove this big earthen dam, which would open up not only 8 or 10 miles of Kelly Creek to Salmonids, but it would also open up a lot more recreation into the nearby neighborhoods, Mount Hood Community College. So it's something that's gaining momentum, and but it's going to take money and funding, and it's another positive thing that goes along with some of the other waterways that we've worked on, Kellogg Creek and so forth. So it was very exciting.
Wonderful. Counselor.
Oh, thank you. I'm really excited for our Metro Mixer this evening at 4 o'clock at City Hall in Gresham. We'll have many of our regional leaders there. So if anyone would like to attend, 4 o'clock, looking forward to it.
Thank you for sharing that. I look forward to it as well. Counselors, I'm going to go a little bit in a different direction than I normally do. I could tell you about all of the ribbon cuttings and openings that I somehow have missed on reporting to you. I think there have been 3 in Clackamas County in the past 3 weeks. But I received this morning a spreadsheet that was produced by League of Cities, and it's the transportation revenue projections from the special session legislative action on transportation. And it's a breakdown by city and by county of where each of our jurisdictional partners will see the gas tax come straight back to our communities. And I'm going to pick on one city in particular, just in the heart of my district, for example, and that's Oregon City. And in this next fiscal year, they're projected to receive $480,000 in transportation funds. Following fiscal year, it's going to be close to $1 million. And for perspective, right now, their annual apportionment is just about $3 million. So while the transportation package is not what we wanted, it's not what we were advocating for, I think it is important to recognize what a significant step forward it is for our local jurisdictions to be receiving these funds as soon as next fiscal year. So just wanted to use my voice to highlight one city. And while folks out in the public are talking about this package in a lot of negative light, we were there right down to the wire saying this wasn't a good package. Right now is a time where I'm saying, look, our local jurisdictions can't afford to have this money taken away. So just wanted to make sure folks are aware of this resource from League of Cities. With that, I'll bring us to the end of Councilor Communications and move us forward in our agenda. Next on our agenda in our repurposed order, we're going to move forward to 6.1, which is Resolution 255522 for the purpose of appointing members to the Oregon Zoo Bond Oversight Committee. Councilors, you'll remember that in July, we passed the ordinance to establish this oversight committee. And more importantly, before that, in May of 2024, our voters said yes to the zoo bond and are helping us continue to protect animal health and well-being at the zoo. So today we get to consider welcoming appointees to give us the public oversight and input through this process. So with us, we have our Oregon Zoo Director, Heidi Ron, and she's joined by Beth Redmond-Jones, who's the Director of Campus Planning and Development. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, counselors. I'm Heidi Ron, the Director of the Oregon Zoo. I am pleased to be with you today to support the resolution to appoint the members of the new Oversight Committee for the Oregon Zoo Bond. For the Oregon Zoo, the Oversight Committee plays an important role in our public accountability on implementation of the Zoo Bond. When voters approved a ballot measure in 2024 authorizing the expenditure of $380 million in bond funding to support capital improvements at the Oregon Zoo, Metro made a commitment to establish an oversight committee to ensure accountability to the voters in our area. The purpose of the committee is to monitor the progress and spending of the bond activities to determine if bond implementation is fulfilling bond commitments as approved by the public, and to report findings to Metro Council and the public. Committee reports are expected to include information on the process, progress, spending trends, cost projections, and project modifications of the Zoo Bond. In August, we launched recruitment for the stand-up of the Oregon Zoo Bond Oversight Committee. A candidate survey was posted on the Metro webpage, and we conducted outreach through strategic communications on the Oregon Zoo and Metro web pages, social media posts, and direct messaging. We received an overwhelming response from our community, with 67 eligible candidates completing our candidate survey for a 13 to 17 person committee. Shortlisted candidates were interviewed to narrow the list to the candidates before you today. I'm happy to submit for appointments the 15 community members from Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties who have agreed to serve on the committee for 1- and 2-year terms. They bring outstanding experience in their professional careers in business, nonprofit management, and government administration. They are experts in finance, education, legal compliance, animal well-being, conservation, accessibility, project management, and construction. All of the candidates expressed to us the motivation to apply to the committee came from a deep commitment to public service, and we're grateful they're contributing their skills to their community in this way. We're particularly excited to have put forward 2 excellent candidates as chair and vice chair of the committee. Monique Claiborne is president and CEO of the Greater Portland Inc. as our candidate for chair of the committee. She brings 20 years of expertise in finance, public policy, and strategic economic development to the Oversight Committee. Ms. Claiborne is deeply engaged in civic leadership across Oregon and is committed to advancing equitable, inclusive, and sustainable regional growth. Sarah Mastrioni is Director of Capital Projects for the Portland Trailblazers and our candidate for Vice Chair. She comes to this role with professional experience from the previous Oregon Zoo bond projects, having been a construction management intern with a general contractor, contributing to the Elephant Habitat Project. Since then, she has led complex civic and cultural developments across the region with a focus on thoughtful design, accountability, and long-term value for the community. Sarah is honored to contribute her experience to the zoo's next chapter. Following formal appointment, we will lead committee members through an orientation process where we introduce the new committee to the operations and strategic goals of the Oregon Zoo and the bond program. Planning is ongoing for the first formal meeting of the committee, anticipated in January or February 2026, which is also when we will be kicking off construction. We look forward to working with Councilor Wong as our council liaison and keeping the full council updated as we implement this important work. I want to thank you all for reaching out to your communities to generate interest in serving on this committee. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Colleagues, questions? Councilor?
Thank you, Councilor Lewis, and really excited to be working with this group. It's seems like a really amazing group of folks with a lot of expertise, so kudos to you all. I guess I have 2 questions. What was the reasoning behind the 2-year and 1-year term splits? And then do we anticipate, like in general, folks would basically renew after their term, or like what would that look like? And then I also wanted to channel my inner Councilor Lewis and ask why there's one Clackamas person, Clackamas County representative, on the commission, and if that's, someplace where we can do some more recruitment.
In regards to terms, they have the option of a 1 or 2 year term. Some specify they only wanted a 1 year term, but they can renew up to 6 years in total. We also didn't want to bring everyone on with the same terms and everyone term off at the same time. So this gives us an ability to have strategy to bring in new members 1 or 2 at a time. So we have a continuity throughout the course of the 13 and a half years that are left in this bond with that committee. In regards to Clackamas, yes, we targeted hard in that area. We ended up getting only 5 individuals from Clackamas who responded, and we had withdrawals from people either not responding or they just withdrew from the process.
And I think the benefit of having these 1 and 2 year terms and not filling the committee right now, we're adding 15 members, gives us the opportunity for ongoing recruitment if we can generate some more interest.
Great, thank you.
Presiding Officer Lewis, if I may, I will just also add that this is a code provision, so we commonly structure for the reasons explained to make sure we have continuity on our committees. We, as a general code standard, have staggered terms, and this is consistent with the code requirements for those standard terms that we have for this committee.
Let's follow up. I'd like to work with you so that we have a Clackamas roster, either to fill additional seats immediately or at the first turnover spot. Because there are more than 5 people in Clackamas County who care about the zoo.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Any further comments, questions? If not, I would call for a motion for Resolution 255522.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Moved by Councilor Wong, seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. Councilors, any additional discussion? Could you take the roll, please?
Counselor Nolan,
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez,
Apologies for being late, present, and yes.
Counselor Wong,
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal,
Yes.
Counselor Lewis.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous support. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I am going to, do you need to, nope, okay, good. We were gonna keep going. Next on our agenda is Resolution 255521 for the purpose of approving fiscal year 25-26 funding for grants funded with the construction excise tax. You should go to your meeting. Okay, to support our vision for growth in our region, Metro funds grants that help our local jurisdictions bring their plans for their communities to life. 2040 grants are critical in helping our partners make progress on technical projects like reducing regulatory barriers, increasing land readiness, and involving the community in key decisions. Our community investment manager, Hal Hagedorn, and 2040 grants program manager, Sarah Breakstone, are here with a slate of grants to share with us. So turning it over to y'all.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for the introduction, Councilor Lewis. So hi, I'm Hal Hagedorn, she, her pronouns. I am the Community Investment Manager with Planning, Development, and Research. The 2040 grant program is under my division's portfolio, along with economic development, equitable development strategies, brownfields, and community placemaking. So before I hand it over to Sarah, I'd like to provide some updates and context. So next slide, please. To refresh your memory, the grant program underwent refinements last fall using feedback from local government, community partners, and other interested parties. So this is the 3rd cycle that implements program refinements approved by council last year. Earlier this year, we awarded a grant to Portland Parks and Recreation for revisioning of the Tom McCall Waterfront Bowl to spur redevelopment. During the 2nd quarter cycle, we did not receive any applications, but provided technical assistance to Clackamas County to work on a resubmission of their original grant application, which we will bring forward today. We just completed the last cycle, the fourth quarter, and received an application from the City of Gresham, which we will bring to you in an upcoming session. So we did not have time to add that to this presentation. So I will now hand it over to Sarah to talk more about the process, screening committee, and proposals submitted during this current cycle.
Thanks. Next slide, please. Good morning. I'm Sarah Breakstone, 2040 Grant Program Manager. So for this grant cycle, this is the third quarter cycle, 2025. Our process was very similar to past cycles. We started with some updates to our website and our application materials. We always send reminder emails out to our interested parties lists, and we received letters of interest and held quite a few meetings with potential applicants and people who are interested in understanding more about the grant program. Full applications were due on July 11th. We received 4 applications. 3 of those are being recommended for funding today. One of them was recommended for some technical assistance so that they could revise their application and resubmit for a later cycle. Next slide. As always, I want to acknowledge and appreciate our grants screening committee. This is a very dedicated group of people who provide really thorough evaluations and make their recommendation for funding to our COO. So just want to put their names up there and thank them for all of their work and their contributions. Next slide. So for today, I will highlight the proposals that are being recommended for funding today. We will ask you to consider a vote on Resolution 25-5521, approval of which will authorize funding for these grants and allow our COO to execute intergovernmental agreements with the grantees. Next. So for this cycle, as I mentioned, we received 4 complete applications. 1 application from the City of Lake Oswego to do some development code auditing and amending focused on housing and business. We have a proposal from Portland Bureau of Planning and Sustainability to prepare an Eastport Plaza redevelopment plan. Excuse me. Clackamas County has applied for a land suitability assessment, and we have an application from the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission in partnership with the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry to do an OMSI district identity framework. And just as a reminder, when we made program updates last year, one of the changes that we made was to allow federally recognized tribes to apply for and receive grants directly, because the CRITFIC is comprised entirely of those tribes. They are eligible to be a grant applicant, and so they are technically the applicant here, partnered with OMSI. The Lake Oswego, Portland, and Clackamas County proposals are being recommended for funding today. The CRITFIC and OMSI proposal is receiving technical assistance so that they can revise their application and resubmit. Next. So as I mentioned, the Lake Oswego project is it's an audit and amendments to their development code that is intended to remove barriers to housing production and support economic growth. So they are looking at updated code requirements, streamlining their code, ensuring consistency with state law, particularly new laws that have come into play in the last few years, improving their process and the procedural requirements, and just generally making their development code a little bit more user-friendly. If you've ever spent any time digging around in Lake Oswego's code, it is layered. And so this is intended to improve some of that user interface as well. It will implement some of the things that came out of their housing needs analysis and their housing production strategies that were adopted by the city in 2023. And the housing production strategy particularly prioritizes providing a range of housing types, including affordable housing. They are asking for $306,000 for this work. Next slide. Portland BPS is proposing to prepare a conceptual master plan for Eastport Plaza, which is a pretty large site off of 82nd Avenue near Halsey. It's part of the new 82nd Avenue Tax Increment Financing District. It's also near transit. This is really an early community visioning and feasibility study effort to really think through what this site can become as it redevelops over time. They anticipate the concept will include housing, opportunities for business, and some culturally grounded community spaces. They are partnered with the 82nd Avenue Coalition. We did recommend some conditions on this proposal, one of which is that the city will be required to execute a memorandum of understanding with the property owner and the 82nd Avenue Coalition to really establish a mutual understanding of roles and expectations, and also a level of commitment to participate in the process and support the outcomes. We felt like this was particularly important because this is a city effort to plan on a site that is privately owned. They are requesting $350,000 to do this work. Next slide. Clackamas County has asked for funding to do a land suitability analysis. This is a county-wide study that will evaluate opportunities and constraints for industrial land, both in their urban reserves and in the rural areas inside the urban growth boundary. So there's areas inside their UGB that still have rural zoning. So they'll be looking at all of that land. You may recall that they submitted a proposal in our first quarter of this year. They were not recommended for funding at that time. They received some technical assistance and have revised their application, and this is their resubmittal. And the intent here is really to provide a framework for industrial growth in the county that enables the county to more fully participate in regional conversations about economic growth and development. This will provide a tool that can be used region-wide. It also complements an ongoing study that the county has funded that is looking at, that is assessing land that is already zoned for industrial uses. So that study will be wrapping up around the time that they would like to begin this one. They are also have demonstrated that they are going to coordinate with their city partners, and they have requested $700,000. Next slide. So next steps for today, we will answer any questions you have, and then you'll be asked to consider a vote on Resolution 25-5521, which will authorize about $1.3 million to be awarded to these grants. If awarded, we will work with grantees to develop intergovernmental agreements, get those finalized, and then they can start working. As I mentioned, the CRITFIC and OMSI team is receiving technical assistance now to revise their application. They intend to resubmit in the first quarter cycle of 2026. Those applications are due January 9th, so that one would be coming back to you sometime in March. We have already received applications for the fourth quarter cycle of 2025. Those were due on October 10th. As Hao mentioned, we received one application from the city of Gresham, and you'll see that probably in January. I don't think that we're going to be able to get on your agenda in December. And we are also expecting a handful of applications for that first quarter cycle in 2026. We're also sort of launching a phase of program evaluation, program assessment. We've been through about a year and a quarter of the program since we made some significant changes in 2024, including moving to a quarterly cycle. So this is a good time to kind of look back over the past year and see how it went and think about additional refinements that we might want to make to the program, including ways to improve outreach to our local government partners to make sure that people are accessing the program and able to participate in the program, and really try to generate interest and applications. I think that is it. Next slide. Yes, we are ready for your questions if you have them.
Councilor Rosenthal?
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. First of all, on the Eastport Plaza, I'm just wondering, does the work include a community outreach and a community visioning sort of process for that, for what they're doing there? That's included in the grant.
Yeah, that's a significant portion of the grant, is a community visioning effort. The 82nd Avenue Coalition is part of the team, and they would be the ones sort of leading that community engagement piece. And then there's also a sort of a more of a technical feasibility studies that would be done so that the community visioning piece is grounded in this sort of feasibility framework. That's how it's intended to work. So it's both.
Okay. I have another question. If you, I'll pass.
Yeah.
The second question has to do with the Clackamas County land suitability. And the reason I ask this is I'm just wondering what the time frame for this is. And the reason I ask this, as you know, some of the groups, particularly WEA and others, including Clackamas County, have been asking Metro to revise some of the ways we look at industrial land. So there's a parallel process that may be going on there. And I don't want to see this done under using old guidelines and then another process change those guidelines. I'm just wondering what the timing issue can be here.
If I recall, and I don't have it in front of me, their timeline was starting in the first quarter of 2026 or maybe the second quarter of 2026. So probably starting by the second half of next year. And then their timeline was somewhere between 18 and 24 months to complete the study.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And Councilor, if I can, this is a survey and listing of opportunities and constraints of the physical land.
Yes.
And what we're looking at from our economic development perspective is about changing process and attitude towards the land itself. So they don't even know what they have. This is their ability to go out and actually do the work of surveying and aggregating the data.
Yeah, no, I understand, but it's also been proposed that we change some of the standards for how we account for land and how we assess its suitability in terms of the data. So there is an interaction there that could occur.
Potentially, but they don't know what they have, so it doesn't matter.
I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I'm saying it's a good idea. I just want to make sure we don't do one and then have to redo it because we've changed some of the standards.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions?
None for me. Great work.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, I would definitely call for a motion on Resolution 255521.
Councilor Lewis, I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Councilor Gonzalez, second by Councilor Rosenthal. Any additional discussion? Barring that, please call roll.
Councilor Rosenthal,
Yay.
Councilor Gonzalez,
Yay.
Councilor Nolan,
Yes.
Councilor Lewis.
Aye. The ayes have it. The yeses and the yays all have it. Unanimous support. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Love that we get to do this once a quarter. Makes it so much more useful to our jurisdictional partners, so thank you. I'll move us along in our agenda, Resolution 255532, for the purpose of endorsing the findings and recommendations of the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan for Portland, Vancouver, et cetera, et cetera. Our last resolution of the day is following up on the work that we've had in work session. As we saw a few weeks ago, the actions in this document reflect planning done by our partner agencies, and these are strategies that are supported by the community. We talked with staff about this plan quite a bit at our work session, so today they will walk us through how they're approaching our feedback, and then we'll consider the resolution. And I think our COO, Marisa Madrigal, will open us up.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis. Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge the excellent work of the team that has put this together. They have devised the most comprehensive plan this region has seen for reducing climate pollution. The planning process was a collaborative effort led by the Planning, Development, and Research Department, bringing together various departments within Metro, specifically WPES, Housing, Parks and Nature, and CAM, as well as public agencies and nonprofits through the Climate Partners Forum. This teamwork has ensured that the plan is built on a strong foundation of climate action that is already underway in our region. We accepted the federal grant for this work, thinking it would position our region to receive federal funding for implementation. We all know that the federal landscape has changed since we started, but the importance of this work has not. The action you are being asked to take today directly advances Metro's commitment to reducing climate pollution. With your endorsement, this plan provides a unifying framework for collaboration that can inform smart, coordinated investments in reducing climate pollution and will prepare us for state and other funding opportunities in the near term and hopefully other federal funding in the future. Additionally, at the October 21st work session, you asked us to be proactive and practical. Given all the changes in federal funding, you wanted us to identify Metro's next steps forward on climate. Specifically, you requested that we add an action to the resolution directing staff to work with council to identify priority climate actions for Metro to implement in the next 5 years. As you'll see, this has been added to the language of the resolution, and I'm committed to working with staff and council to identify those near-term actions that will help reduce climate pollution now, build resilience, and address the impacts of climate change on our communities, infrastructure, and natural systems. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kim to kick off the presentation.
Great, thank you, Marisa. Thank you, Presiding Officer Lewis and Metro Council. We're really excited to be here. My name is Kim Ellis. I'm the Climate Program Manager in the Planning, Development, and Research Department. I really want to express our excitement to be here to request your endorsement of this plan. The culmination, this plan is a culmination of a little over 2 years of work led by Elliott Rose, who's done a wonderful job managing this project. As Marisa noted, his job was not easy as we have been navigating the changing federal landscape as we've been developing this plan, and it's really required us to be nimble and adaptive and to think differently about how we're going to go about implementing this plan as we go forward. I also want to take a moment to recognize Caden Mongolick and Jai Daniels over sitting on the side here, who have made significant contributions to this work since they joined the climate team last year, and then staff from other departments, Luis Sandoval, Rachel Cho, Rosalind Green, Jonathan Saul, Jenna Garman, and Dana Vissi have all been very important part of this work. Marisa described the updates, the key updates that we made in response to your feedback last month. And I'm going to turn it over now to Elliott Rose to share the action before you today and next steps going forward.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Presiding Officer Lewis and Metro Councilors. For the record, I'm Elliott Rose, Senior Transportation Planner, and I manage this project. Next slide, please. The Comprehensive Climate Action Plan that we're discussing today includes several different elements to help us work together with our partners across the metro area to reduce climate pollution. Those elements are greenhouse gas inventory, projections, and targets that all help us understand how much work it's going to take to meet our climate goals and generally where we can focus that effort in order to make the most impact. The plan contains 23 actions designed to meet those climate goals, and each action has quantified costs and benefits, as well as recommendations about how to best move forward with implementation. So there's a lot of information in the plan that can guide further prioritization and implementation of these actions. This grant challenges us to look beyond Metro's region, to look beyond our traditional climate responsibilities, and to take on some new issues in climate that we haven't before. And so it's very much a framework to guide that collective action across the 7-county Portland, Vancouver metropolitan area, and particularly to help local and regional agencies have the collective impact that we need to address a problem that is global. Next slide. The CCAP, I didn't mention the, Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which I'll be referring to as the CCAP, builds on a long history of climate leadership at Metro. That began with the 2040 growth concept, which established a regional land use vision that really serves as the foundation for Metro's efforts to improve the environment and also people's quality of life, and which continues to be a cornerstone of our climate work. In 2008, Metro established an agency-wide commitment to sustainability and climate action. And then throughout the 2010s, Metro implemented that commitment, in particular by focusing on reducing emissions from the sources that are most within Metro's control: transportation, waste, parks and nature, and our own operations. And you can see on this slide that there's multiple plans from this decade from different departments of Metro that reflect these commitments to reduce those emissions. We had a lot of success in that work. And we also recognized that we needed to expand our leadership to continue to protect our communities and support our partner agencies. This realization was driven in part by Council adopting strategic targets in 2023 that reaffirm Metro's commitment to climate action. And also public feedback has confirmed that people in our region continue to want Metro and our partners to focus on climate. So the CCAP, as CEO Madrigal said, is the first plan that Metro's produced to consider all sources of emissions, including emissions from building energy and food, goods, and services. There are a lot of cases where our partners have more direct control over these emissions than we do. But as we've talked with them, one key theme that emerges again and again is that Metro's support and thought leadership helps our partners make the best use of their authority and resources. And we're not just talking about reducing climate pollution. There's the Cooling Corridor Study, which is Metro's most comprehensive climate adaptation work to date. It's initiated through a separate source and it's on a separate timeline, but it definitely complements the CCAP by identifying steps Metro could take to protect people from extreme heat. Next slide. We were really fortunate when we started this work to be able to have a lot of climate work that was already underway in our region that we could build on. In the process of creating this plan, we reviewed and coordinated with 16 different agency-led climate action plans and also 10 community-based climate action plans. And those plans all had really great initial ideas about how to reduce emissions in a way that was equitable and improve the economy, improve people's quality of life, that we were able to consider and figure out how to prioritize and elevate those actions as we created this plan. This map shows that all of the metro region, most of the metropolitan area, and all the metropolitan area's most populous communities are covered by at least one climate action plan. So that's the good news. And the challenge is that there's more we can do to coordinate between these plans, because we know we do our best work when local, regional, state agencies are all working together. And so that's really what the CCAP helps us do, is look across these local plans and figure out how we can maximize their impact by working together and elevate the things that everybody seems well positioned to work together on. Next slide. So I've spoken with you before about the types of engagement we did through the CCAP, but I don't think I've really conveyed the full extent of that engagement. We convened 10 meetings of our technical steering group, the Climate Partners Forum, that consists of climate experts from 33 different partner organizations, both public agencies and environmental nonprofits and community-based organizations. We collected feedback from close to 300 members of the public through 2 online open houses. And that was in addition to building on the really robust public engagement that many of the 26 climate plans we reviewed had included, where they had already engaged their communities in a very deep and targeted way to help understand which climate actions best benefit both the people and the environment in their communities. We received 56 public comments from 16 unique people and organizations, and many of those resulted in changes to the final plan. And we received feedback at 3 council work sessions and at over 20 regional policy and technical committee meetings, including here at Metro, at Regional Transportation Commission in Clark County, and at counties around our region. Next slide. So the result of this is the CCAP is definitely a climate plan, but it's also a lot more than that. we set up this process to prioritize action that meet multiple goals, and also to deprioritize actions that might have negative impacts on people's pocketbooks or on their communities. This slide showing the big picture benefits of the CCAP, which creates jobs and saves people money in a way that feeds back into our local economy, builds complete communities where people can access the things they need easily and conveniently on a daily basis, improves public health and air quality, and also makes significant progress toward our climate goals. And within the plan, there's a lot more detailed information on which actions produce which benefits. We know that the issues of importance to people in the region sometimes change as issues evolve, and that's designed to help to keep this plan evergreen by highlighting actions that have different co-benefits so we can be responsive to the needs of our region. Next slide. Kim and CEO Madrigal both alluded to some of the twists and turns in the evolution of this grant, and I wanted to speak to that a little bit more. These grants were funded through the Inflation Reduction Act and intended to help local, regional, and state agencies position themselves for many of the climate-related funding programs that were created by that bill. And our first step when these grants became available was to convene partners across the MSA, remember this extends beyond Metro's region, and confirm that Metro had the trust of everyone involved to lead this work. Fortunately, thanks to the work we have put into climate leadership and other regional issues, people gave us that trust. And so that launched us into our next step, which was to produce the first deliverable in this grant, which is the Priority Climate Action Plan. That identified high priority actions that Metro and our partners could begin implementing in the next 5 years. The 6 months we had to create that was a really tight timeline for this work, but we were able to succeed in part because we had so much great climate work already going into this process that it made it easier to elevate the actions that were best positioned to move forward given in that tight timeline. There were implementation grants offered for actions that were included in the Priority Climate Action Plan. Unfortunately, the projects that applied from our region were not successful in receiving those, but the state of Oregon did receive a $200 million implementation grant that continues to fund climate action across Oregon, including several pass-through programs that local and regional agencies and our partners in this region can potentially participate in. Once the dust cleared on those implementation grants, we kicked off the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, and 6 months after we did that, the federal government began to roll back climate funding programs and policies. Through conversations with council, our partners in the public, we confirmed that we still wanted to move forward with the CCAP, taking a lesson from our experience in the PCAP, knowing that this work really positions us well to move quickly when funding opportunities do become available, and wanted to make sure that even if the future of funding was a little murky, we were prepared when the next opportunity arose. So thanks to all that work, we're clearer today than we've ever been about what the region needs to do to meet its climate goals. And our next step is to work with council to identify actions from CCAP and also other Metro climate efforts that Metro can prioritize moving forward in the near term. As a slide showing some of those strategies may point us to new initiatives from Metro. Others may be able to be implemented through updates to the climate-related plans that we have underway, including the Future Vision and Climate Smart Strategy and Regional Transportation Plan, which deal with emissions from transportation, and also an update to the Metro Sustainability Plan that I didn't fit into this slide in time, that will also kick off in 2026. Lastly, some of the funding sources that continue to flow may be potential resources that we want to look to implement some of our priorities. Next slide. So the resolution before council today endorses the CCAP. It directs the COO to work with council to identify climate priorities for Metro. It directs Metro staff to consider the CCAP and future climate work and encourages partner agencies to do the same. and it directs Metro staff to pursue resources to implement the CCAP. Next slide. Approving this resolution will allow us to submit the final CCAP to the Environmental Protection Agency, our grantor, by the deadline, which is the end of this calendar year. It'll also make the CCAP available for partner agencies to begin using as a resource as they develop their climate action plans. That's actually a big opportunity for us because I didn't cover this when I showed that map of climate plans earlier. We don't have to go back to it. 6 of those plans are actively being updated right now, and those partners are awaiting the information from this plan. And it'll also kickstart a conversation about how to prioritize climate actions based on the CCAP and other Metro-led climate work. Next slide. So thank you for the opportunity to share this work with you today and your guidance throughout the project. Presiding Officer Lewis, I'll turn it back over to you to lead the discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the good work and particularly for coming back to us, having absorbed and brought forward points relevant to what we raised at work session. Councilors, any questions, comments?
I have a comment, but I'll wait until we have a motion on the table.
Okay, Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for the presentation.
Oh, Councilor Nolan, something has happened to your audio. Try again. I see movement. We're not hearing it.
Oh.
Oh, there.
You're
Stay
back.
close.
Don't move.
Don't
okay. Question about when we get to the state target of 90% reduction of greenhouse gases.
What the analysis, what we see in the plan is that in combination with state actions that are complementing our work to reduce emissions, our region gets about 2/3 of the way to that goal of reducing emissions by 95% below 1990 levels by 2050. The CCAP acknowledges that we don't have the resources and authority within our region or even our state to meet those goals, and that further collective action across multiple states and across sectors is necessary to fully meet those goals. And it identifies some ideas that we might want to pursue to seed that collective action.
And I appreciate the constraints that the plan was developed under. I hesitate to call it a plan because it continues to not get us where we've said we need to go. And science and chemistry won't wait while we figure it out. But given that this resolution essentially just acknowledges that we've completed the work that the grant reimburses us for, I'll support it. But when the oxygen runs out, it's going to run out, and it doesn't matter how many resources we have or haven't spent on it. I think we really need to treat it as the existential challenge that it is. And this is a disappointment because the funding that we had intended to use to implement it won't be there. But I think we're going to have to really commit to thinking of solutions that don't require investment, that require coordination, regulation, changes in practices.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, no questions from me. I have comments, but I'll wait until the motion.
Okay. I do have a question. So looking at the map that you had of the overlapping climate plans and resolutions, Clackamas County was shaded green, even though the 2019 directive for Clackamas County to develop a climate action plan led to both delayed work and non-adopted work. What actually qualifies Clackamas County to be coded green in your map?
Thank you for bringing that up. We did consult with Clackamas County staff about this, and we work with them to, on the full map, which includes a legend showing each plan, it does have an asterisk indicating that Clackamas County's plan is in draft and does not include a year of adoption. The footnote under the plan, which we worked on with staff, says basically that acknowledges that the plan was not adopted, but does continue to guide internal climate efforts at Clackamas County.
I think it might be a stretch that it continues to guide. I appreciate that that's what they were willing to put down on paper, and hopefully document that for you in a publicly requestable format. But based on my understanding and attendance at many Clackamas meetings, there might actually be some pride in the fact that that document was both delayed, which is understandable, it was COVID, but also not always used because it's not adopted. So I would just use my microphone moment here to urge folks in Clackamas County to ask for all the good work that went into that plan to actually come to fruition. Otherwise, it's just documents in the ether. Okay, I would definitely call for a motion on 255532.
I'll move to approve.
I'll
Chair
second.
Lewis.
Wonderful. We have a motion from Councilor Gonzalez and a second from Councilor Rosenthal. And I'll open up for discussion. I'll go Councilor Rosenthal, then Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple comments. First of all, it's worth noting that the climate summit is going on in Brazil right now, and the United States is not even sending representatives, or at least not high-level representatives. I think they're sending observers. And also, one of the big issues of the international climate thing is indigenous peoples and their rights to have some redress on this. But that's not the point of my comments. The resolution, I think, I appreciate the fact, all the hard work that's gone into the report, the compendium, the summary and all the information and all the collation of all that. And I appreciate the hard work that went into revising the resolution. It reads pretty close to what we commented on during the last work session, and I really appreciate that. And I think it really goes a long way. My only concern, or I should say the only caveat I would add, is that it implies that we are going to have our partners work to adopt what's in this. And of course, one of the key things, one of the recommendations of the resolution is that we're going to continue to prioritize the kinds of actions that we can do. In other words, Metro is not in charge of everything. And so there's only some of these things, either through funding or through administrative authority, that we can do and some that we can't do. So we're going to develop our priorities in each city, each of our jurisdictions that has a climate action plan. And Wilsonville just adopted one last week. And I looked a little bit at it, and it's not different from what this identifies, but the focus is slightly different. And so I think there's still going to be a lot of work going forward in working with all of our partners, and when they do adopt climate action plans, resolving some of the, I wouldn't say conflicts, but some of the discrepancies in terms of prioritization. For example, Wilsonville, one of their priorities was to retrofit all the houses to get more energy, and businesses to get more energy efficiency, which was a lower priority on what we identified. So there's going to be, I think it's going to take a fair amount of work going forward to sort of work with all of our entities, because they all have slightly different perspectives. They're not all going to just adopt this plan. They're going to adopt plans that are suitable to their local communities. And so there's going to be a lot of work to work with them and try and cross those bridges. So that's not a criticism. That's just saying that there's a lot more work to be done. Thank you.
Councilor.
Hey, team. Just thank you so much for the hard work. I think at our last work session, I think a lot of the council sentiment was around, like, what's our plan? Help us understand more about Metro's role. And I appreciate the presentation, because I think the framing and the work and all the steps taken to get here, and also opening the exhibit that you attached. It's a 413-page behemoth of work and of clear plan, a clear strategy, a clear roadmap. And I think like folks, if people out in the community were to argue against that being a clear framework, I mean, I would be very concerned about that. The question of resources is one that we're going to have to continue to manage. And one of my favorite things about the charts that y'all have put together, and I know a lot of the staff that worked on this is here, is the little bubbles that there's authority, resources, the policy or ability to deliver on things, et cetera. And I think those high level visualizations for policymakers are very helpful. The alignment across governments is essential. And I think as we continue to grow in our leadership and wanting to advance and implement as much policy as possible, I think a lot of the work, I'm hearing a lot of pressure from council for staff, like staff, what are you going to do about this? But in reality, there is an equal balance on this side of the ledger because the council can lead in the legislature. The council can lead in advocating for our congressional delegation to pass legislation that brings us the resources to do that, right? And so I want to kind of balance that responsibility as well, because we do need resources, and this plan is directing or allowing the organization, the agency, the collaborative group of partners that contributed to this to really pursue all those resources possible. But when we hit those ceilings, that's where political will comes in, and that is where elected leadership comes in. And we know that policy is not a zero-sum game. When people look at how they interact with the world, they think about the environment, but they think about their housing costs, they think about their childcare. I mean, all of these things that we know, right? So I think it's our job to really help people see themselves reflected in how this will benefit them in the long term. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And I see this plan and how rich and integrated it is, and like I want to continue to read it. And every time that I reread something, I learn something new. And I again just really appreciate the hard work that went into that, and I look forward to supporting it and voting yes.
Great. Georgia, please call the roll. Oh no, Councilor Nolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick follow-up. I want to echo what Councilor Gonzalez just said. My comments were directed at those of us who sit on the wall side of the dais, that it is the political leadership that's lacking, that we need to step up and not just provide potential guidelines, but convene the entire region to own the responsibility and take action that is not always the easy path. And I just want to thank Councilor Gonzalez for reminding us all that that's our job, that that's on us. Thanks.
Now.
Okay, Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Yes.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Yes.
Councilor Lewis.
Aye. The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
That is a
Thank you for your leadership.
monumentous moment. Thank you.
Yes.
Go, Merv.
A lot of work.
So we've reached the point of the agenda where I will move us into other business and ask Councilor Gonzalez to share with us a proposal for directing funds to support the community during challenging times. This follows up on our most recent work, week prior to last, supporting community needs and allocating funds to ensure that residents in our region have access to food, even as the federal benefits were cut off. So, Councilor Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I appreciate it. And colleagues, I'm so sorry that I was late. As you know, there are a lot of things happening in our region that are impacting vulnerable people, immigrant families, refugee families, and things like that. There was a table hosted by a group called the Immigrant Solidarity Collaborative in Forest Grove, and so I was there. And then, anyway, just trying to get back in time to start the conversation was quite serious, so I wasn't able to leave. And I really appreciate the staff for creating the space on our agenda and uploading all the documents necessary, like government being nimble and trying to be responsive to what we're seeing. And that's what I'm bringing today. federal enforcement policy, and the application of that policy is creating for residents within the metro area, and continues to create pressures and needs in our community, and especially impacting how many of our partner jurisdictions, our cities, our counties, and many of our nonprofits are operating in response to that. So with your agreement, I would like for us to direct our COO, Marisa Madrigal, to work with staff and create a proposal that would allow for Metro to pull the appropriate funds up to $500,000 to address the need that is out there, and squarely around providing critical assistance to neighbors that are suffering from direct actions from the federal government, and that are based off of perceived or real identities. The purpose of this is to really support families that might have lost a breadwinner, and that are really tied up in some kind of legal process, and might need eviction prevention or some kind of stabilization support in the very immediate meantime. And with your support, I think right now what we need is just a simple head nod for the team to really put together a proposal that makes sense based off of resources that we have, and then the right way to get it out into the most impacted people as possible. And then obviously making sure that we are doing everything in our possible to follow state law in a direction, and do what we need to do. So I wanted to bring that and welcome any comments or questions and discussion. But really, my hope, my plea is that we give staff the opportunity to work on this.
Councilor Nolan?
Madam Chair, Councilor Gonzalez, thanks for the proposal. Thanks for the initiative. I don't see a path for a near future where federal funding for social services, family services, employment services, environmental services, any of them improves.
Yeah.
And while I supported the proposal to provide $500,000 to bridge the gap for those receiving SNAP benefits, and while I certainly know personally and know of people who are suffering because of their immigration status or other identity issue, I would like to make a friendly amendment to your suggestion, and that is that staff develop a recommendation on how the council should consider significant unbudgeted expenditures, especially for services or programs that are outside our normal wheelhouse.
Mm.
There will be another one of these.
Yep.
That'll come up again soon. And I want us to be making rational choices about it, and I don't want the first ones who raise their hands to be the ones who get support, and the 5th or 8th or 20th one to raise their hand because they didn't know the process, get left out.
Thanks, Counselor. I do see that as a friendly recommendation or a friendly amendment to this, because you're right, and I totally feel the pressure of this ask, because Metro does not have unlimited pockets or ability, so there's definitely trade-offs to that, and I think staff need to help us understand that. So I think a framework absolutely makes sense, and I think in terms of this, in terms of the ask for this specific fund of what we're doing here, many of our local partners in this week have also made action. So Washington County did $250,000 for immigrant response. Multnomah County has $100,000 plus will be moving probably more in the near future as they release a work plan. City of Hillsborough did 200,000. So anyway, I'm just kind of quoting in some of the conversations that I've seen folks recognizing that right now we're in a particularly tight and very acute moment. But I think that your comments are really wise in looking at, we have a long road ahead of us of a lot of suffering for people in our region, and we need to be really strategic. So anyway, just trying to reflect back to you what I'm hearing, and hopefully it sounds right.
Yes, Counselor. Thank you.
Great.
It's a pleasure doing business with you.
I appreciate you bringing this forward. I think we're going to have to be flexible as time goes forward. We're going to face additional crises. Let's hope that this helps a lot of people on the short term, and then we have to keep advising ourselves as to what additional efforts we can do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, I think we've all done what we can to support this. I am, like Councilor Nolan, wary of the amount of money out of the gate, looking at the long term, or the durability of these challenges, and maybe needing to be more modest or paced in our distribution of funds. But we also need to come up with an apparatus where we're working and responsive in a far more regular cycle than we currently are with our social service providers. So I look forward to hearing what staff will do.
Sweet.
Wonderful.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think somebody did a little something different with my script. There's no adjournment, so I cannot tell you when our next meeting is without looking.
Chair Lewis, before you go to adjournment, can I just real quick ask our COO, Marisa, do you feel like the direction from council is clear? And if you could just, from your vantage point, what you heard today and how you can go forward and support our direction.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor Gonzalez. What I'm hearing is a desire for a proposal to fund some support specifically for families that have been impacted and are at risk of homelessness due to federal actions, and specifically federal immigration actions. I also heard a concern that this is going to be an enduring challenge, and so to be mindful of both our short-term response and a long-term consideration of what our resources are, what we might need to step up to in the future, and really appreciate both that short-term response and long-term thinking, and we'll make sure that in our recommendations to you that we clearly consider those and any trade-offs that are inherent in that. And then I think it also speaks to potentially longer term or more collective action that council could take. I know Councilor Gonzalez, you and I had a quick conversation the other day. I think that starting to look toward, this is an action to try to stop some of the bleeding, but what are some more strategic collective actions that we could take that address the overall problem? I think that's really important to keep in mind. So very much appreciate all the comments, and we will do our very best to bring you back some packages to consider that reflect all the comments and concerns.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I've had a moment, so now I can adjourn us properly. See no further discussion, I will adjourn us, and our next regular meeting is scheduled for November 20th, 10:30 a.m. Have a great day.
Had to take off.